Hi, I'm Karl Scheible from the class of '79, and my goal is to provide you with a simple strategy for an easier life. And I'm going to destroy this $100 bill to help make my point. I'm sure that we've never met. I left Rochester for Austin, Texas in 2004, and I think I've only been on the campus once or twice since then. I was really looking forward to being with you in person as your commencement speaker. But like you, this is not how I planned for this ceremony to happen. I really feel for you, your families, and millions of others who had their plans taken away from them. I know all the hard work that you went through in the last 4 years, only to be faced with this unforeseen crisis. Unfortunately, I can kind of relate. After this graduation ceremony, I had planned to attend a dedication for my mother, who died this past August. The Aquinas Art Room is being dedicated to her. And as a side note, my father and I both studied art with Father Karl, so our art roots run deep with Aquinas. It's really rough missing that. Having our plans upended is disappointing, but you're going to find that many things in life are going to be out of your control. Things will happen that you didn't plan for and don't like. During your years in college, you may get a terrible roommate, struggle with a class, lose a coveted internship, or unfortunately have the love of your life dump you. The only thing that's really under your control is how you react to these types of situations. For example, I was told that 100% of you completed all of your remote classwork. I bet with no one looking, it could have been easy for you to mail it in, just get by. But you not only did the work, you got the job done at a very high standard. This shows that you have integrity, and that value will take you far in life. For every disaster that you face, you'll have an opportunity to emerge a stronger and better person, but only if you choose to do so. I have a short story on how Aquinas helped me to develop my integrity. When I was accepted into Aquinas, my parents told me that I would have to pay for my own tuition. Well, they had the means to pay for it, but my father believed that if I was paying for the school, I'd be motivated to get my money's worth and stay out of detention. So I borrowed $5,000 from my grandmother, which is roughly $25,000 in today's dollars, and bought a printing press. My plan was to print small jobs for area companies to earn money to pay for school. Part of my business model was to produce notebook paper and sell that paper out of my locker. I didn't sell very much, but what I did sell was enough to get me sent to the principal's office to discuss my business venture. I remember the relief on Father Gallen's face, he was the principal at the time, when he figured out that it was only notebook paper being sold from my locker. I explained to Father what I was doing and why, and his decision was monumental in my development. He told me that I could continue to sell the paper, but it had to be from the bookstore at the school, not my locker. Eventually, I got the opportunity to print stationery, tickets, and other small jobs for the school. But here's the thing. I just made enough money to pay for school and pay my grandmother back. Not much more than that. I certainly didn't intentionally make enough to have a car or even a good bicycle for that matter. That wasn't my goal. I was just very appreciative for the opportunity. That's just one story of many of how Aquinas played a role in my development. Now, looking back at my career, I've been very blessed to be living a life that can be best described in Father Rohr's book titled Falling Upward. He explains in his book that the first half of our lives should be focused on pursuing our goals, wherever they may be, fame, fortune, ego. Then if we're blessed to do so in the second half of our lives, we should give back and help others. This leads me to my classmate, Mike Daly. There is no one I know that epitomizes this virtuous lifestyle better than he did over his career. He transitioned Aquinas into what it is today, an institution that has never been stronger, and I'm going to miss him. Sometimes you'll get opportunities that you never expected. That's how I feel about getting this opportunity to speak to you. I can't describe how surprised I was when I was asked to deliver this address. I did nothing spectacular at Aquinas. Heck, I graduated in the half of the class and made the top half possible. I played varsity hockey for a couple of years, only scored a handful of goals, nothing really noteworthy. But if you read my bio, it does look pretty good. I have a 35-year marriage. I was inducted into the Hall of Fame for 2 different industries. I won several international championships as a professional race car driver, including a factory driver. And I even earned an MBA, finishing near the top of my class in my 40s. But like Facebook or an Instagram post, that only shows a positive image. If I were to list my failures for you, there would not be enough room to show them on the screen. I failed a lot. I dropped out of college, and it wasn't because my grades were too high. I crashed cars learning the race. I made mistakes in business. I could call myself an expert in failing. So that's the topic of my short message to you: how to embrace failure and grow from it. I'd like to say I had it harder than you did when I was your age. I can't. I believe that you have it a lot harder than me in some regards. And one area is how society is impacting your willingness to take risks because of the social consequences of failure. I believe that you cannot grow without taking some risks. Taking a risk requires that you step out of your comfort zone to do something that's outside the norm for you. Now, before I go any further, I need to put the term risk in the context. When I say risk, I'm not referring to your willingness to accept the Edward 40 Hands challenge and then jump off the second-story balcony into a kiddie pool full of water just to be accepted into a fraternity or sorority. Not that. I'm talking about meaningful risks, like taking a daunting course that you're not sure you can ace, joining a club in which you have no experience in, or engaging in civil conversations with people who have a different point of view than you. Here's the paradox, and if you understand this, your life will be far less stressful and more fulfilling. In general, you're made up of two parts. One part will be the roles that you perform in life, which are the things that you do and are observed by others. Then there's your identity, your true self-worth. In other words, the value that you place on yourself through your internal dialogue. Society tends to value people based on how well they perform in their roles. So if a person's great at something, they're typically held in high regard. If they happen to perform poorly, well, they're sometimes thought to be worthless or worth less. This rating can be based on what you wear, what you do, how much you make, what you believe, who you hang with, what you've accomplished. In our society, our roles are constantly rated, and social media is making this so much worse. As people post their roles online, others can feel immense pressure to keep up. This unspoken ranking that is placed on us creates an internal pressure to either continually appear to achieve at a high level or spending our lives chasing that approval. This paradox will create stress, anxiety, and most of all, the avoidance of failure. So let me be clear. No one can be perfect in all their roles. No one. Our performance will always fluctuate between winning and losing, just like your favorite athlete's performance. It's completely normal to fail. So how does this cause people to avoid taking risks? They avoid taking risks because they don't want society to observe them failing. For many people, society's low rating on their roles ends up negatively impacting their self-esteem, sometimes to the point of adopting total risk avoidance or the strategy of building a facade of success. So how do you avoid this roller coaster? It starts with keeping your identity separate from your roles in life. In other words, whatever happens in the role side of your life should not have any bearing on your value as a human being. I need you to protect your self-esteem no matter how many times you fail in life. I'd like you to imagine that you're wearing a coat of armor and that your self-worth is impervious to any failures that you experience, and most importantly, from any ratings on the outside that are placed on you by others. God made you a perfect 10 in terms of your value as a human being. This perfect 10 rating should never be impacted by your role performances. When you sincerely believe that you're a perfect 10, no matter what, you will take risks because failure won't intimidate you. Once you have this mindset, nothing can hold you back. Think of some of the famous accomplishments and then reflect on the risks that were taken to make it happen. How about J.K. Rowling as an example? The author of those Harry Potter books that you probably enjoyed as a kid. She was a single mother on welfare, writing in a coffee shop, who was rejected by at least 12 publishers, but she never stopped trying. In closing, let me take a moment to make my point with this $100 bill. It's worth $100. Yeah, and it's real. When I wrinkle it up, what's it worth now? Well, it's worth $100, of course. But what if it fell on the floor and got trampled and got dirty? What's it worth then? Well, it's still $100. Well, let's tear it in half. That was kind of weird. I've never torn a $100 bill in half before. What's it worth? Well, it's still $100. I can tape it back together and take it to the bank for a new one. So like this $100 bill, you're going to go through some rough times in life. You'll get your feelings hurt. You could be scorned, ridiculed. You'll get your ego bruised. You'll be embarrassed. So what? No matter what happens, your value as a person will never change from that perfect 10 that God made you. I ask that you march to the beat of a different drummer, not to impress others by collecting likes, claps, or shares on social media. Those metrics are all worthless. In the end, no one's going to remember them. The only metric that really matters is how you feel about yourself. So, embrace risk, stay a perfect 10, and enjoy the ride of your lives. I wish you well.